Dr. Dre's story begins not in luxury but in struggle. Long before billion-dollar headphones, platinum records, and Grammy Awards, there was a young dreamer named Andre Ramel Young, born on February 18, 1965, in Compton, California. Compton in the 1970s was a world of contradictions, vibrant with rhythm, yet scarred by violence, poverty, and broken systems. While other kids were drawn to sports or street life, Dre found solace in sound. He spent hours mixing records, experimenting with beats, and losing himself in the language of rhythm. Music became his escape, a place where chaos turned into harmony, and pain transformed into art. Growing up, Dre was shy but observant, more comfortable behind turntables than in front of crowds. His mother, Verna, nurtured his creativity, while the streets of Compton toughened his spirit. Life wasn't kind to him. He witnessed crime, police raids, and social injustice firsthand, but those experiences became the raw materials for his future sound. They gave his beats depth, authenticity, and emotion. Every bassline he would later craft carried the pulse of those early years, the struggle, the defiance, and the hunger to rise above it all. In his teenage years, Dre began sneaking into clubs like Eve's After Dark, where he first laid hands on a professional turntable. The moment he spun his first record, something clicked. He realized he wasn't just mixing songs, he was creating a story, commanding energy, making people feel something powerful. The local DJ scene in Los Angeles became his training ground, and he quickly earned the nickname Dr. Dre, short for Doctor of Rhythm. But what really made him stand out was his perfectionism. Even back then, Dre wasn't satisfied until every sound was flawless. That obsession with excellence would become both his trademark and his secret weapon. His big break came when he joined the world-class Wreckin' Crew, an electro-funk group that gave him a taste of the professional music world. But Dre knew that wasn't his final destination. He was hungry for something real, something that captured the raw truth of life in Compton. That hunger led him to meet a young rapper named Eazy-E, and together with Ice Cube, MC Ren, and DJ Yella, they formed N.W.A. What they created next would change music forever. N.W.A.'s 1988 album Straight Outta Compton was a cultural earthquake. It wasn't just music, it was a revolution. Dre's hard-hitting beats, Ice Cube's sharp lyrics, and Eazy-E's raw delivery gave voice to an entire generation silenced by society. The world wasn't ready for it. Radio stations banned their songs, politicians condemned them, but fans embraced the honesty. For the first time, mainstream America was forced to listen to the struggles of inner-city youth. Dre became the sonic architect of that revolution, shaping the sound of gangsta rap and laying the foundation for West Coast hip-hop. After leaving Death Row Records in 1996, Dr. Dre stood at a crossroads that would define his legacy. The world thought he had lost everything, his label, his artists, his momentum, but Dre saw something nobody else could: freedom. While others were blinded by fame, he was obsessed with the long game, crafting a sound that would not only last but evolve with time. With his new label, Aftermath Entertainment, he sought to rebuild from the ground up, guided by one unshakable belief: real success isn't measured by what you own but by what you create. The beginning wasn't easy. Aftermath's early releases, like Dr. Dre Presents, The Aftermath, received lukewarm responses. Critics claimed Dre had lost his magic. The man who once ruled hip-hop was now being doubted by the very industry he helped build. But true visionaries don't crumble under pressure, they sharpen their focus. Dre spent endless nights in the studio, experimenting with new sounds, refining his production techniques, and searching for the next big artist who could reignite his creative fire. Then, destiny introduced him to a white rapper from Detroit with a sharp tongue and a raw story: Eminem. When Dre first heard Eminem's demo, he didn't just hear lyrics, he heard hunger, pain, and genius wrapped in rhythm. People around him doubted the idea of signing a white rapper in a predominantly black genre, but Dre's instincts had never failed him. "I don't care if he's purple," he said. "If he can rap, he's getting signed." That one decision would not only revive Dre's career but revolutionize hip-hop for a second time. The chemistry between Dre and Eminem was electric. Dre's beats became the perfect stage for Eminem's unfiltered storytelling, and together they created the Slim Shady LP in 1999, which went multi-platinum and won multiple Grammys. Their partnership deepened with the Marshall Mathers LP and The Eminem Show, albums that reshaped the boundaries of rap, blending emotion, humor, and brutality in a way no one had dared before. Through Eminem's rise, Dre proved that his genius wasn't bound to one era, he could evolve, adapt, and still dominate. But Dre's vision extended far beyond one artist. After building Eminem into a global superstar, he guided another street poet to greatness, 50 Cent. The moment Dre heard 50's mixtape, Guess Who's Back, he recognized the same hunger he once had in Compton. Together with Eminem, Dre produced Get Rich or Die Tryin' in 2003, an album that became an instant classic and sold over 12 million copies worldwide. Once again, Dr. Dre had done what only the greats can do, create legends, not just songs. What made Dre's genius unique wasn't just his musical skill, it was his discipline. In an era when artists rushed to release albums, Dre was notorious for perfectionism. He could spend weeks tweaking a single snare drum or re-recording a verse until it felt right. When the world began to see Dr. Dre not just as a producer but as a visionary, something powerful began to unfold, a legacy that went beyond sound. His life became a lesson in self-belief, discipline, and redemption. The noise of the streets once tried to define him, but he learned to make music louder than that chaos. After leaving Death Row Records, a place that made him rich but chained, Dre took the ultimate risk. He walked away from millions, keeping only his integrity. People called him foolish. But Dre knew one thing: you can rebuild an empire, but not your soul once it's sold. That decision gave birth to Aftermath Entertainment, a label that became a cradle of legends. And then came a young rapper from Detroit, Marshall Mathers, known to the world as Eminem. When everyone doubted that pale, angry kid with impossible lyrics, Dre didn't. He said, "If he's for real, I'll stand by him." That moment changed both their lives. Eminem's first session in Dre's studio was lightning, two different worlds merging into one unstoppable creative storm. Dre gave Eminem the platform, Eminem gave Dre the fire to reinvent himself. Together they proved that talent doesn't have a color, a zip code, or an age limit. It's about hunger, raw, unfiltered, unapologetic hunger. Success, however, wasn't a straight road. Dre faced lawsuits, betrayals, business failures, and public criticism. The pressure of perfection often pushed him to isolation. He lost friendships, made tough calls, and even questioned his purpose at times. But every time he sat in front of that console, the music reminded him why he started. The studio was his sanctuary, the only place where chaos turned into clarity. He once said, "I'm obsessed with sound." That obsession built a billion-dollar brand later known as Beats by Dre. It didn't start as a business plan, it started as frustration. Dre noticed how cheap headphones ruined music, how people couldn't feel the soul behind the bass. So, he and Jimmy Iovine decided to fix it. "People aren't hearing all the music," Dre said. "We're going to make them hear it." What followed was a revolution. Beats became a symbol, not just of sound but of culture, pride, and excellence. Every young dreamer wanted to wear that B because it represented breaking barriers. And when Apple bought Beats for over $3 billion, Dre became the first hip-hop billionaire. A man who started with turntables in Compton now shook hands with Silicon Valley. But money never changed his code. Even with all the fame, Dre stayed behind the curtain, letting his work speak louder than his interviews. He built studios, launched artists, funded schools, and mentored dreamers. Yet, behind that success, he carried scars. He lost close friends like Tupac. He lost his son, Andre Young Jr., to tragedy, a pain no father should ever endure. But he didn't let grief silence him. As the years passed, Dr. Dre became more than a name, he became a movement, an invisible architect shaping the sound of a generation. His silence in public spoke louder than most people's interviews because Dre was never chasing attention, he was chasing mastery. While others fought for fame, Dre fought for excellence. He was the man who could spend weeks fine-tuning a single snare, the man who could rebuild an entire track because one note didn't feel right. People called it perfectionism, but for Dre, it was a promise. A promise to never release something that didn't represent the absolute best of his soul. That discipline, that madness for precision, became his trademark. It's what turned artists into icons under his guidance. Eminem, Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent, Kendrick Lamar, all of them carry a piece of Dre's DNA in their art. He didn't just produce songs, he produced greatness. And through them, he spoke his truest language, excellence. Yet behind the luxury cars, the billion-dollar contracts, and the endless accolades, Dre was still the same boy from Compton who wanted to make something of himself. He remembered the broken nights, the police sirens, the hunger, the chaos, all of it stayed inside him, like an engine that kept him grounded and hungry. That's the paradox of Dr. Dre, the balance between power and pain, success and solitude. He had achieved everything the world could offer, yet he still sought the next sound, the next challenge, the next evolution. Because when success becomes your norm, growth becomes your only thrill. And Dre was addicted to growth. People often see only the glory, not the grind. But Dre's story is written in sleepless nights and broken beats. It's written in the sacrifices nobody talks about, missing moments with family, the constant self-doubt, the fear of failing in front of millions. Even as one of the richest men in music, he fought internal battles that money couldn't solve. But instead of running from those demons, he used them as his rhythm. Every hit he made carried a shadow, a whisper of struggle hidden beneath the melody. That's why his music hits differently, it's not just sound, it's survival. When Beats by Dre became a global phenomenon, Dre stood at a crossroads. He had finally conquered both art and business, something few ever do. But he knew that wasn't the finish line. He wanted to build legacies, not companies. He began funding projects that uplifted youth, especially from places like Compton, kids who reminded him of himself. He co-founded a new academy with Jimmy Iovine to teach creativity, leadership, and innovation, not just to make money, but to make meaning. He wanted the next generation to know that greatness doesn't come from luck, it comes from consistency, from the discipline of refusing to be average. Even in his 50s, Dre didn't slow down.